Going home for the new year with cracked lips, my friends always teasingly ask if I got bitten by a dog again. Surrounded by people, I joke that it was my girlfriend who bit me, which instantly darkens my friend's face. Forced by my mom to come home early for the holidays, I arrive just in time on the last day. Upon entering, I see Linda, my childhood friend, and her parents. Linda, with her teasing expression, asks if I got bitten by a dog once more, recalling the incident when we were 5 years old. Despite her unwillingness to accompany me for rabies shots back then, she turned it into an ongoing joke. In a moment of nostalgia, I touch my lips and notice the scab from the recent bite. Amidst their laughter, I claim it was my girlfriend who bit me this time. The room falls silent as Linda's face turns dark, remembering our childhood wedding play. Her mom, breaking the silence, mentions my girlfriend, to which I politely reply, "Yes, she's a junior from our school." Seeing Linda's shocked expression, I add that she couldn't make it this time, promising to bring her over after the new year. This leaves Linda fuming, yelling in frustration and storming off to the balcony. As their argument echoes into the room, I shrug nonchalantly, push my luggage to the room, and move past the awkward stares. Remembering our past misunderstandings, I find it ironic that Linda now objects to my love life. Later, as I change into comfortable clothes, Linda, seemingly pacified, is already seated at the dining table. The meal proceeds with careful avoidance of the previous topic, focusing on my academic pursuits instead. Just as the tension eases, my phone rings unexpectedly. Glancing at the caller ID, I excuse myself to take the call, telling them to start without me. It's Daisy, my girlfriend, checking if I had eaten. I tease her about my bitten lip, to which she playfully admits her mischief. Before I can respond, a loud noise from behind the door interrupts us. Linda, looking annoyed, urges me to finish dinner or she'll start washing dishes. Daisy suggests getting me fried chicken to continue teasing Linda. Learning of Daisy's identity, Linda turns pale with jealousy, while I casually introduce her as my girlfriend. After the call, the air between Linda and me grows tense. She questions how long we've been together and why I never mentioned her. As I explain about our communication lapse, she insinuates that I don't care much for Daisy. I reassure her of my feelings, but sensing her unease, I decide to leave. As I pass Linda, she quietly asks why I'm leaving so suddenly. Though she once humiliated me in front of her parents, I've also felt the sting of her rejection. Reminiscing about our childhood friendship, I had once believed she reciprocated my feelings. This misunderstanding led to my heartbreak when I later learned she was interested in someone else. Just now someone told me that the day after Linda embarrassed me, she started dating someone else. Lately, when I saw the official announcement posted by Mike on social media, I couldn't help but look at it. In the picture, he and Linda were huddled together looking very affectionate, which made me uncomfortable. I resisted the urge to click for a closer look. My buddies soon started asking me what was going on, but I was relieved that I rarely post on social media. Otherwise, as Linda's rumored boyfriend for many years, I would have to make a statement. But in the end, I decided to put my phone down and remove Linda from my life. I didn't have much time to dwell on the sadness. Before this, I promised Linda to stay with her along the coast, but I had to break that promise. I chose a university in the Southwest when applying to schools. That summer, encouraged by my parents, I went for a driver's license, learned to swim, and traveled to a few cities. When my schedule was packed, I found little time to feel down. I kept myself busy with either traveling or attending classes, such that my mom mentioned Linda came to our house a few times with Uncle Lynn, but they never saw me. I was either out exploring or in class. Days before school started, when packing with my mom, I ran into Linda again. Uncle Lynn pointed out that I had gotten darker, and I agreed, mentioning that I had been to many places. Linda, beside him, remained silent and only shot me glances. Perhaps she was not in the best mood that day, as she didn't say a word and just gave me a deep look before leaving. I kept my head down and didn't look back at her. Before I left for college, I decided to turn my phone off to avoid the message Linda sent me, "How come you are going to university, see?" College life kept me occupied. I even pursued a second major, and my weekends were filled with activities. One day, out of the blue, Linda contacted me to help her with an online shopping event. I realized then I hadn't thought about her in a long time. After declining her request, she took a while to respond with an "it's okay." I didn't engage in any small talk and continued with my work. It wasn't until much later, when the library closed, that I saw her message inquiring about my summer break plans. I chose not to respond. Now, standing in front of me, Linda asks why I distanced myself so quickly. An absurd thought crossed my mind, which I quickly dismissed. "I don't understand what you mean," I told her and returned to my room. On the day I returned to school, Daisy came to the station to pick me up. As soon as she saw me, she held my arm and said, "Tired? I'll take you to eat something good." As we walked, Daisy's expression seemed off. When I asked her what was wrong, she hesitated before saying, "I'm really sorry for biting your lips that day. I was feeling so insecure." Daisy and I had a peculiar first meeting. During a holiday when the library closed at noon, I was heading back to my dorm carrying books when a little dog suddenly sprinted out from the bushes. It locked eyes with me for a moment before running over and rubbing against my leg. I squatted down, petted its head, and it immediately became attached to me. It had a collar, so I knew it belonged to someone. I had to sit there and wait for the owner. A few minutes later, a girl rushed over, apologizing for the trouble and thanking me for taking care of her dog. As a gesture of gratitude, she added me as a friend on social media. That girl was Daisy. She was a junior 1 year below me, now a freshman in college. Soon after, she began showing up often, using the excuse of gratitude to bring me lunch at the library or seek help with her general education courses. She silently slipped into my life, and my friends couldn't stop praising her. What made me fall for her wasn't her physical appearance, given my past experiences with Linda. It was a small incident involving Daisy preparing a lunchbox for me, which I accidentally dropped. Typically, Linda would scold me for being careless, but Daisy, instead of getting upset, calmly cleaned up the spilled food without a trace of annoyance. It was then that I started developing feelings for Daisy. Daisy turned around, clearly surprised, perhaps wondering why I asked her that. After a moment, she smiled at me and said, "But you didn't do it on purpose, so I'll do it for you again." Her words felt like a warm breeze melting the ice in my heart, leaving me stunned in place. So one day, Daisy accompanied me to the library. Despite sitting across from me, she still passed me a small note. The note read, "Can you be my boyfriend? Please, senior, if you reject me, I'll cry." It was signed by a teary-eyed puppy. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. I felt like, in that moment, I completely shook off the shadows Linda had cast on me. The person in front of me was emotionally stable, giving me a sense of security and allowing me to fully invest in the next healthy relationship. So I wrote yes on the note. Every time Daisy prepared a holiday surprise or gift, she put a lot of thought into it. She always checked my schedule beforehand, ensuring that surprise activities wouldn't cause me any trouble. Whether it was in game skins or holiday travel plans she's already mapped out, she was meticulous in her efforts. During the recent National Day holiday, we went to the seaside city. Daisy took a perfect Polaroid picture at the beach, a picture that she placed behind a transparent phone case. She was thorough in her actions, thinking of everything, making our 3-day, 2-night trip very enjoyable. If it weren't for the unexpected guest on the way back, perhaps this happiness would have lasted longer. As we were walking back hand in hand, my roommate called me. "Justin, your sister is at school, waiting for you downstairs." I was taken aback. "Which sister?" "I don't know, but she's really pretty." Several guys were just asking for her contact info. Just as we arrived at my dorm building, I spotted Linda in the crowd. She saw me too, about to say hello, but caught sight of Daisy and me holding hands. Linda's eyes instantly reddened. Linda suggested going for coffee with Daisy and me. "Is this your girlfriend?" Linda asked. I replied, "Yes, this is my girlfriend, Daisy." I introduced Linda to Daisy, the neighbor's sister, Linda. Linda's face paled. Daisy, holding an Americano, leaned towards me, grinning, little sister, you've got an eye for good men. Huh. Linda gritted her teeth, little sister. As the atmosphere grew tense, Daisy said, I've ordered a small cake next door. Let's have it later together. I'll go get it now. With that, she left her seat. I looked down at the latte art, while Linda asked, since when did you start drinking coffee? I stirred the coffee and replied, when I was preparing for the final exams, I was too tired, so I started drinking coffee. People change. Noticing the underlying meaning in her words, I asked, why are you here? She replied nonchalantly, as your neighbor's sister, to see if your girlfriend is reliable. When Daisy and I fell silent, Daisy returned with the cake. Opening the package, she said to Linda, Justin loves the cheesecake and coffee at this cafe, and so do I. She proudly placed the cake in front of me, like offering a treasure. Linda stared at her with a displeased expression. Without realizing it, Daisy moved closer to me and rested her head on my shoulder. She whispered to me, why do I feel like your little sister isn't satisfied with me? It was supposed to be a whisper, but Daisy made sure Linda heard it loud and clear. Linda's face turned even uglier. I rubbed Daisy's head and assured her, it's nothing. Don't overthink it. Under Linda's almost fierce gaze, I held Daisy's hand. We have to go to the library later. Thanks for hosting us, Linda. After saying that, I left a $50 bill on the table without looking at Linda's expression and took Daisy out of there. On the way back, I remembered Daisy's odd behavior earlier. She was usually kind and well-liked by classmates for her personality, never embarrassing anyone in public. But today she kept setting off Linda. I had a hunch she had figured out who Linda was. Sure enough, Daisy asked me, is that the girl you mentioned liking before? It's her, but she's all in the past now, I replied. Daisy, being clingy, said softly, I trust you. But her eyes betrayed her unease. I thought Linda had left. But the next day, Daisy's roommate called me. Justin, come to the hospital. Daisy got beaten up. I rushed to the hospital and saw Daisy sitting on a bench, with Linda on her right side. When she saw me, Daisy's eyes turned red, looking like she was about to cry, seeking refuge in my arms. But Linda shouted, Justin, she was just hugging and laughing with another guy. Before I could say anything, Linda showed me her phone screen. Indeed, there was Daisy hugging a guy and having a good time. Muttering to herself, Linda said, I told you so, your taste in women is just unreliable. Her face was full of disbelief, glancing at me from time to time. I interrupted her, he is Daisy's cousin. I know him. Linda was taken aback. After a moment, she said, you don't have to defend her. Your bad taste isn't something new. I didn't defend her. Daisy had introduced me to her family when we started dating. I looked at Linda, if my taste is bad, then yes, it is. Otherwise, I wouldn't have liked you before. Linda was speechless. She stammered, her eyes turning red. How can you say that? Looking back at Daisy with her tearful eyes, looking so upset like a puppy who lost its treat. I lifted her face to check her injury, still not looking up, but spoke to Linda, you'd better go back to school early. You not only bullied my girlfriend, but also made her feel unsafe. In shock, Linda heard me say, don't come back again or I will tell Uncle. Linda left, looking lost. That day, I dropped Daisy off at the dormitory. She still planned on taking me to ride the Ferris wheel the next day. Because it was going to be sunny, she said seeing the stars from the Ferris wheel would be beautiful. But the next day at noon, I got a call from my mom. She said Linda had called her, telling her that Daisy was hugging another guy behind my back, asking me what was going on. I suddenly felt a strong sense of disgust towards Linda. I detested her for distorting the truth and causing trouble. This feeling of disgust kept me distracted the whole day. So much so that when the Ferris wheel reached its highest point the next day, and Daisy wanted to kiss me, I forgot to respond. When I snapped back to reality, I saw tears glistening in Daisy's eyes under the lights. I wanted to explain, but Daisy beat me to it. Justin, is something bothering you? Let's cool off for a few days. I'll wait for you. Daisy, usually a cheerful girl, was now crying in front of me frequently. I felt a deep sense of guilt. Although Daisy was a little sulky, she still held my hand and went back to the dorm with me. Before leaving, with her head down and looking dejected, Daisy said, "Justin, what I give you is also what I want." I kept reflecting on what Daisy said when she left that day. On weekends, Daisy would always stick close to me. But that day, she went to the lab alone. I rarely went to the bookstore alone that day. While checking out, I felt someone's gaze on me. When I turned around, it was a boy I didn't know. He held a book and came over. Out of politeness, I gave him a slight smile. But he said, "I know you." I was surprised because I had never seen him before. He chuckled, "I know you through Daisy's social media." He gestured to the table I used to pursue Daisy. Seeing my blank expression, the boy laughed. "I pursued her, but I didn't succeed, so don't worry." He told me the story of him and Daisy. They were high school classmates. At that time, Daisy was smart, beautiful, and a popular figure in school that everyone knew. He was also known as the school's heartthrob. They were set up by classmates because they were both admired students. Everyone cheered them on. He also fell for Daisy during this time. One day after school, he confessed to Daisy, thinking he had a good chance, but she earnestly turned him down. Daisy told him we shouldn't date just because others want us to. True love requires you to understand your own heart. He didn't quite grasp Daisy's words back then. It wasn't until he met his current girlfriend that he realized his feelings for Daisy weren't genuine but rather driven by the crowd's opinion. He followed the trend of wanting to be with the popular girl for the sake of his ego. He continued, "Although Daisy rejected me, she never publicized it. She always protected my dignity. Until recently, I saw you on Daisy's social media. Because she's a great person, I knew you must be a good person too." After the guy left, I opened Daisy's social media. Our photo was her profile picture, and all her posts were open for viewing. As I scrolled down, I saw Daisy's daily life before we got together. But last year, each post of Daisy's included me in some way. Sometimes it was a candid shot of my profile or me napping in the library. Her friends also knew me because she often told them how I would get so engrossed in reading that she had to bring me food at the library. No wonder my roommates praised, saying everyone knew that Justin was Daisy's sweetheart. I looked at my own social media. It contained few posts, mostly just reposts required by clubs, without a sign of Daisy. No wonder Linda said I didn't like Daisy. And after seeing Daisy's sad face yesterday, I could see where she was coming from. I called my mom and asked her, "Have I never told you about my girlfriend?" Perhaps she was playing mahjong. The background noise was loud, but her words struck me. "When did you talk about it? You suddenly mentioned having a girlfriend when we were celebrating the new year." "Justin, listen to Mom. You have an eightfold love, but you only show a third of it. You better call that girl immediately and sort things out. Love needs to be expressed. Hang up and text her now." She hung up abruptly, leaving me stunned on the line. Maybe Linda's hurt cut too deep. I was afraid that if I expressed myself fully, it would make the other person proud and conceited, causing them to no longer like me. I divided my love as if cutting a cake, only giving a small portion at a time, never fully committing myself. But now I realized, Daisy gave me a sense of security, but I only gave her a fraction of my love. That wasn't fair to Daisy. So, I felt I needed to talk to Daisy. But before Daisy came to me, Linda appeared. I thought she had left. When she showed up below my dorm, I furrowed my brows. She said, "I want to talk to you again." I needed to settle things with Linda. Otherwise, her endless entanglement would only make Daisy more insecure. I agreed to her invitation, but quickly texted Daisy. "Linda invited me to dinner. Be back soon." I thought this could be a first step to earning Daisy's trust. Linda and I went to a Sichuan restaurant through the back door. Linda couldn't handle spicy food, but I ordered a lot of spicy dishes. She looked a bit surprised, saying she couldn't eat spicy. I retorted, "Then just order a few dishes for yourself." She looked a bit hurt, as I wasn't as considerate towards her as I used to be. Ignoring her, I mentioned the rumor she spread about Daisy to my mom. Linda defended herself, doubting if Daisy's family background was as she claimed. I bristled, saying I wasn't foolish. Things got heated as Linda confessed her regrets about dating Mike instead of pursuing me. In Linda's rant, I finally understood a cryptic message Mike posted back then. It turned out the person he couldn't defeat was actually me. I was shocked and felt more disgusted with Linda. Linda insisted I come back to her, claiming she could offer me everything. However, I pointed out her selfish behavior and emotional outbursts. She fell silent, eventually saying she would wait for me. When I went back to confront the disruptive card game, it turned out to be Daisy. Daisy and I returned to the dorm together. Daisy explained her sneaky actions, expressing her importance to me. I felt guilty and reassured her that she didn't need to play games with me. I realized my true feelings for Daisy and publicly acknowledged our relationship. I no longer hid my affection for her and introduced her to everyone. One day, while using Daisy's phone, I discovered messages from Linda with photos of us, prompting a confrontation between the two. Daisy stood up for herself and her relationship with me, shutting down Linda's attempts to ridicule her. She made it clear that I deserved better and wasn't defined by childhood connections. Eventually, Linda's hurtful words were met with a sassy yet empowering response from Daisy, asserting my worth and their differences. Linda just replied with a bunch of emojis cursing her out. When I checked Linda's profile, I noticed she had blocked Daisy. I don't post updates often, but that day I posted, "June is not just about graduation gowns, but also about my bride." I included a photo of my graduation picture and marriage certificate. My high school classmates all liked the post, saying I always do big things once I set my mind to it. Linda was the first one to like it, but the next moment she unfriended me. Speaking of the proposal, it was a bit of a funny mix-up. Daisy and I seemed to have a telepathic connection as we both pulled out rings at the amusement park where we started dating. We looked at each other's rings, paused for a moment, then burst out laughing. So we ended up putting on each other's rings. My parents and Daisy's parents had dinner together. Daisy's mom, who is from City C, is fiery but couldn't stop praising me, saying Daisy needed a kind and polite man. After the dinner at the hotel, my mom hugged me and said Daisy seemed good for me. I chuckled at my mom. "You just met her once? How can you tell?" Mom said, "You can tell from her parents. Her parents seem to love each other. Even though her mom can be short-tempered, they still show affection. The children raised in such a family know how to love people. I see she is handling you well, and now you're learning to express your emotions too." Remembering how I mistreated Daisy before, I felt guilty. Just then, there was a knock on the door. "Justin, I got some sparklers. Let's go play now." I opened the door, and Daisy's radiant smile greeted me. I tightly held her hand. Thankfully, it wasn't too late. I saw Linda again at me and Daisy's wedding. I was arranging the wedding outfits when Linda suddenly appeared behind me. I waited for Linda to speak. She took out a red envelope from her pocket and handed it to me. "This is a betrothal gift," she said with expectation, "or maybe you can consider leaving now with me." I looked up at her intense gaze and accepted the envelope. Looking back at her, I said, "You'll be the first one to give a red envelope to your nephew. He will remember you for sure." Linda's eyes welled up. "Is Daisy pregnant?" I nodded with a smile. "Yes, Linda, you're going to be an aunt." She fell silent. Then after a while, she said, "Have you thought about it? Maybe Daisy's heart will wander in the future. Are you really ready for marriage? It's quite strange, you know?" I knew Daisy wanted to propose to me that day at the amusement park, and I didn't feel any rejection at all. As my mom said, who expected me to be anxious before marriage since I was particular about everything. She even prepared comforting words for me. But I simply told her with a smile that I wanted to propose to Daisy. Her consoling words suddenly had no effect. Now, on the day of the wedding, Linda asked, "Have you thought about it? Maybe you won't love her anymore later on." I replied, "Linda, you're wrong. Love isn't a consistent process, but as long as it's Daisy, I will fall in love with her over and over again. In the moments she willingly goes to the library with me every day, or when she posts our photos on social media, or even just when she looks at me, I fall in love with her all over again." It seems that healthy feelings can give you courage, and I finally said those words aloud. Laughing at the corner of the wedding dress hanging by the door, I said, "Every day with her is a surprise from Santa Claus, so I am willing to fight against the uncertainties of the future for her and enjoy our present together." Perhaps I was somewhat unlucky. I couldn't blend in well with Linda, so we missed each other. But I was also fortunate because Daisy patiently taught me how to express my love. Daisy finally showed up after eavesdropping outside the door. Blushing, she reached out her hand to me. I took the bouquet from Daisy's hand and placed it in Linda's hand, saying, "Here comes my Santa Claus, Linda. I wish you happiness and success in the future." Passing by Linda, I softly added, "Learn to speak kindly in the future, Linda." She replied without looking back, "There won't be anyone else." I didn't turn around. After the wedding, I heard from my mom that Linda had left for abroad on the day of the wedding, leaving everyone astonished. I often receive text messages from abroad. They are just casual greetings, nothing intrusive. Linda seems to confine herself to the past, but I don't need to pay the price for her stubbornness. Every time, I would show them to Daisy, who would, huffily, say she doesn't mind, then would nestle in my arms and act all spoiled. Once, I needed to use Daisy's laptop for work and stumbled upon a folder on her desktop. Out of curiosity, I opened it. It was filled with photos and videos of us, but I had never seen the initial video. So I clicked on it. In the video, Daisy was holding her dog, looking troubled. "Ancestor, can you handle the mission?" The dog wagged its tail. A moment later, a guy appeared in the frame, walking through the flowers with books, when he was in his second year. Daisy patted the dog's bottom, but the dog hesitated. "Ancestor, it's your turn. Remember to stick with that guy later. If you succeed, I'll open a can for you." The dog still wiggled and refused to move. After some coaxing, Daisy nudged the dog forward. "Go ahead, and you'll have a daddy in the future."